Welcome to Sleep with Reason. I'm your host, Sober Without God. This is the Fall Asleep series. This series is designed to help you fall asleep while listening to stories about the scientists and non-believers who have made an impact on our world. If you're like me and have trouble going to sleep or staying asleep, videos like this may help you relax while also learning. It is my hope that hearing these stories in a calm and peaceful way will help guide you to the relaxation and sleep you're looking for. Before we begin, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe, and please leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from. It's a big help to the channel and will encourage me to make more like this. My goal is to be able to make these videos ad-free as the channel continues to grow. These videos are here to pay homage to some of the greatest thinkers of our time while helping you relax and meditate or fall to sleep. So now, let's settle into a comfortable position and get ready for some peaceful rest. Take a slow breath in. Hold for a moment, and then let it go. Tonight, we drift into the remarkable life of Stephen Fry, a man of words and wit, a performer, writer, activist, and humanist. His voice has carried laughter across theaters, wisdom across lecture halls, and compassion into public life. And perhaps, most importantly for us, he has offered clear, courageous words about living without gods, about finding meaning in humor, kindness, and reason. But before the wit and wisdom, there was a boy. Stephen John Fry was born on August 24th, 1957, in Hampstead, London. His father, Alan Fry, was a British physicist and inventor. His mother, Mary Ann Newman, was of Austrian and Hungarian descent, part of a Jewish family who had fled persecution in continental Europe. That heritage would quietly shape Fry's outlook, a childhood touched by the memory of displacement, of history's dark chapters. Though he grew up in England, those European roots lingered in family stories and values. As a child, Fry displayed traits that would remain with him forever. Curiosity, verbal brilliance, and a restless energy. He was precocious, devouring books, fascinated by language. Words became both his playthings and his tools. He later reflected, "The English language is my playground, and my friend, my lover, my best tool." Young Stephen was mischievous, bright, yes, but not always obedient. He struggled with authority, clashed with rules, and often found himself in trouble at school. Teachers sometimes saw him as difficult, but beneath the rule-breaking was an agile mind, hungry for stimulation. He could memorize entire passages of poetry, recite Shakespeare, or craft elaborate jokes, long before his classmates could keep up. He once said, I wasn't naughty because I wanted to upset people. I was naughty because I was bored. This tension, brilliance on the one hand, restlessness on the other, would mark his adolescence. Stephen attended a series of schools, including Stout's Hill Preparatory School and Uppingham, but rather than a smooth academic rise, his school years were turbulent. At Uppingham, he was expelled after just a few terms. He forged signatures, lied, stole, not out of malice, but out of compulsion and a lack of direction. Later, he would be candid about it. I was, frankly, a complete little sod. Eventually, Fry's misbehavior escalated. At the age of 17, he absconded with a friend's credit card and went on a spending spree. For this, he was arrested and spent 3 months in prison on remand. It was a shocking experience, and yet Fry has often spoken about it with a mixture of regret and self-awareness. That time behind bars forced him to reflect on the path he was carving for himself. Take a slow breath in and now let it out. From mischief to imprisonment, these early detours might have destroyed another life. But for Fry, they became part of the story he would later tell, openly and honestly, in his autobiographies. After prison, Fry sought redemption through education. He earned a place at the University of Cambridge, where his life would take a decisive turn. At Cambridge, he joined Queen's College, studying literature. It was here that his extraordinary gifts found a home. Surrounded by books, debate, theater, and friends who shared his passions, Fry flourished. He joined the famous Cambridge Footlights, the university's comedy troupe, where his quick wit and towering presence stood out immediately. There he met lifelong collaborators, Hugh, Laurie, Thompson, and others who would become stars in their own right. Reflecting later, Fry said, Cambridge saved me. I don't mean that it made me cleverer. It made me happier. It made me myself. The shift was remarkable. From a troubled youth on the verge of wasting his talents to a dazzling presence in comedy and literature. Even in these early years, Fry's humanism was already visible. Though not yet the outspoken atheist he would become, he questioned authority, resisted dogma, and found solace in the beauty of culture rather than religion. His Jewish heritage, his fascination with literature, his prison experience, and his sensitivity to suffering, all these threads wove together into a worldview grounded in empathy, curiosity, and doubt. He later summed it up in his characteristic style. The fact that we are here at all is so astonishing that we need nothing else to astonish us. In Stephen Fry's early life, we see the formation of a man who would become one of the world's most eloquent voices for reason and compassion. A boy who stumbled, but who rose with the power of words. A youth who fell into darkness, but who found redemption in art, friendship, and laughter. Take in a deep breath and slowly let it out. At Cambridge, Fry studied English literature, a natural fit for a mind already captivated by words. But it was not only books that defined his time there. It was also performance, comedy, friendship, and the intoxicating thrill of finding one's true voice. Cambridge has long been home to the Footlights, a student comedy club founded in the 1880s. The Footlights had produced generations of British comedians, and Fry was quickly drawn into its orbit. It was here that he met Emma Thompson, herself a student at the time. Thompson, recognizing his brilliance, introduced him to another budding comic talent, Hugh Laurie. The connection was immediate. Fry and Laurie would go on to form one of the most celebrated comedy duos in British history. Reflecting on that time, Fry once said, "Meeting Hugh Laurie was the most fortunate thing that ever happened to me. It was like finding a twin." The two men could not have looked more different. Fry was tall, broad, articulate, and overflowing with verbal energy. Laurie was leaner, musical, and quick with physical comedy. But together, they were magic. Their partnership thrived on contrast, on timing, on an almost telepathic sense of rhythm. In the Footlights, they created sketches that blended wordplay with satire, absurdism with charm. Their performances were clever, sometimes surreal, and always delivered with a sparkle of intelligence. One critic later observed, "Watching Fry and Laurie was like seeing language itself turned into comedy." Emma Thompson, too, played a vital role in those early days. She and Fry shared not just the stage, but a deep, enduring friendship. Thompson admired Fry's brilliance, but also cared for him during his moments of self-doubt. Later, Fry would recall, "Emma saved me more than once. She is one of the kindest people alive." This circle of friends, Fry, Laurie, Thompson, and others, created sketches and shows that would launch them into the national spotlight. In 1981, their revue, The Cellar Tapes, won the Perrier Comedy Award at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. The success brought them to the attention of television producers, setting the stage for what was to come. By the mid-1980s, Fry was appearing on British television in a range of programs. He and Hugh Laurie developed their own sketch show, A Bit of Fry and Laurie, which ran from 1989 to 1995. The show was a playground for their wit, elaborate word games, absurd sketches, and sharp satire of everything from bureaucracy to advertising. Fry's love of language shone through in every performance. He once quipped in a sketch, "Language is my mother, my father, my mistress, my whore, my queen, my nursemaid, my chauffeur, my footman, my bodyguard, my valet, my banker, my cook, my lover, my prison." Delivered with his characteristic flourish, it captured the essence of Fry's comedy, playful, extravagant, and yet deeply thoughtful. At the same time, Fry became a familiar face in other British television classics. In Blackadder, the historical sitcom starring Rowan Atkinson, Fry played roles such as General Melchett, bombastic, absurd, and unforgettable. His booming voice and imposing figure made him a perfect foil for Atkinson's sharp wit. For many, he was cast in so many excellent shows. He embodied quiet intelligence, dry humor, and unflappable calm, especially in the show Jeeves and Wooster. He played the unflappable valet Jeeves, opposite Hugh Laurie's bumbling Bertie Wooster. He later said, "Playing Jeeves was one of the great joys of my life. It was like slipping into the perfect suit of clothes." The series introduced Fry to international audiences and solidified his reputation as more than a comic. He was a storyteller, a man of letters, a voice of authority cloaked in humor. At the end of the 1980s and into the 1990s, Stephen Fry was everywhere, on television, on stage, on panel shows, in films. But more than fame, what emerged was something deeper, a public voice. Fry was no longer just a comedian. He was becoming a cultural figure, articulate, erudite, and unafraid to speak on matters of society, politics, and meaning. He later reflected on the power of humor. Comedy is not just entertainment, it's a weapon, a shield, a way of seeing the world more clearly. Through laughter, Fry invited people to think. Through jokes, he planted seeds of skepticism. From Cambridge to comedy stages, from sketches to sitcoms, Stephen Fry transformed himself from a troubled youth into a national treasure. His wit carried him into the homes of millions, and his intelligence set him apart as more than a performer. Take a slow, deep breath in. Hold for a moment and release. In the 1990s, Fry began publishing novels. His first, The Liar, in 1991, drew from his own life, witty, clever, steeped in Cambridge settings, with a protagonist whose sharp tongue and restless nature echoed Fry's own youth. It was followed by The Hippopotamus in 1994, a comic novel exploring hypocrisy, art, and scandal. delivered in Fry's unmistakable voice. Then came Making History in 1996, a daring alternate history about Adolf Hitler never being born. A story that let Fry explore morality, fate, and the consequences of tampering with time. Later, The Stars Tennis Balls in 2000 reimagined The Count of Monte Cristo in a modern setting, another meditation on betrayal, revenge, and resilience. These novels were not just entertainment. They carried Fry's humor, yes, but also his questions about life, morality, and meaning. As Fry once said, a novel should not just amuse you, it should move you, trouble you, perhaps even change you. Fry's autobiographies have become some of his most beloved works. The first, Moab is My Washpot, in 1997, is a raw and candid account of his childhood and adolescence, including his thefts, imprisonment, sexuality, and struggles with shame. It was brutally honest, full of pain, but also humor. Readers admired his courage in laying bare the darker corners of his youth. In the Fry Chronicles in 2010, he explored his Cambridge years, his rise in comedy, and the excitement of early fame. This was Fry in his element, witty, nostalgic, filled with affection for his friends and collaborators. Finally, More Fool Me in 2014 brought the story into his adulthood, including candid reflections on addiction, excess, and the challenges of success. These books establish Fry not just as a comedian, he's openly. If you have ever felt alone in your sadness, then let me tell you, you are not. That's why I write, to say you are not alone. Beyond fiction and memoir, Fry has written countless essays, introductions, and articles. His topics range widely: literature, politics, technology, language, history, and human rights. In each, his voice is unmistakable, erudite, humorous, compassion, and brimming with curiosity. He described himself as a language addict, once saying, "Words are, of course, the most powerful drug used by mankind." For Fry, writing was not just communication, it was enchantment. The right word could change a mood, an idea, even a life. Another thread in Fry's literary life is his love of mythology. In recent years, he has retold Greek myths in books such as Mythos, Heroes, and Troy. These works introduced ancient tales to new generations, blending scholarship with Fry's trademark wit and warmth. He spoke of the myths as eternal stories, saying, "These myths are not just dusty tales. They are mirrors. They tell us about ourselves, our pride, our folly, our courage, our love." Through these retellings, Fry acted as a bridge between the ancient world and modern readers, showing that even thousands of years ago, humans wrestled with the same questions of morality, power, and meaning. By the 2000s, Fry had become something rare, a public intellectual who was both approachable and revered. He was a familiar face on television and radio, but also a trusted essayist, speaker, and thinker. People turned to him not only for laughter, but for wisdom. Part of this came from his style. Fry did not preach. He entertained. He amused. And then he slipped truth into laughter. He once reflected, "If you can make someone laugh, you can make them listen. And if you can make them listen, you can make them think." Through novels, memoirs, essays, and myth retellings, Stephen Fry revealed himself not only as a performer, but as a writer of depth and humanity, a man who could spin a joke into wisdom, a man who could take pain and transform it into honesty, a man who made words dance, but also made them heal. Take in a long, calming breath. Hold it gently for a moment and let it flow out, soft and slow. Stephen Fry has been, for decades, one of the most eloquent and fearless voices for atheism and humanism. Perhaps the most famous moment came in 2015 during an interview on Irish television with Gay Byrne. Byrne asked Fry what he would say if he found himself standing before God after death. Fry's response shocked some and inspired many. He leaned forward and said, "I'd say, bone cancer in children? What's that about? How dare you? How dare you create a world in which there is such misery that is not our fault? It's not right. It's utterly, utterly evil. Why should I respect a capricious, mean-minded, stupid God who creates a world that is so full of injustice and pain?" These words ricocheted around the world. For believers, they were controversial, even offensive. But for many atheists and humanists, they were electrifying, a bold, clear articulation of the problem of evil. And yet Fry did not shout. He did not rage. He spoke with sorrow, conviction, and moral seriousness. He went on. The moment you banish him, life becomes simpler, purer, cleaner, more worth living, in my opinion. Fry's atheism has never been nihilistic. On the contrary, it is rooted in compassion and an insistence that morality is not the monopoly of religion. He once said, "It is the useless things that make life worth living. Wine, love, art, beauty, friendship, those are what we stay alive for, not because some God tells us, but because they are good in themselves." This is Fry's humanism, a celebration of life's richness without divine command. Where religion offers dogma, Fry offers curiosity. Where religion insists on obedience, Fry insists on freedom. He sees kindness, generosity, and love not as duties imposed from above, but as choices made by humans, choices that give life meaning. Fry has used his voice to support countless causes: free speech, LGBTQ rights, mental health awareness, and secularism. As a gay man, he has spoken movingly about the need for dignity, equality, and compassion. His advocacy has touched lives around the world, particularly in places where homosexuality is still persecuted. He once traveled to Uganda for a documentary confronting anti-LGBT legislation and the religious justifications used to support it. He spoke with anguish and clarity about the harm caused in the name of God. His activism is not angry, but firm. He believes that ridicule and satire are powerful tools against cruelty and dogma. As he put it, the great thing about being human is that we can laugh, and sometimes laughter is the best way to puncture pomposity, hypocrisy, and cruelty. Fry has also celebrated doubt, the willingness to admit not knowing. He said, "The point of science and philosophy is not that they have answers, it's that they have the questions, and it is questions that move us forward, not answers." For Fry, atheism is not about certainty. It is about humility, about recognizing that we are small, temporary beings in a vast cosmos, and that our best response is to live with curiosity and kindness. Here are a few quotes for reflection from Stephen Fry. It's now very common to hear people say, "I'm rather offended by that," as if that gives them certain rights. It's no more than a whine. It has no meaning. It has no purpose. It has no reason to be respected. "I'm offended" is simply not good enough. Morality is not given to us from on high. It is the way we humans agree to live together. I'd rather be regarded as a good humanist than a bad Christian. think I probably stand a better chance of achieving it. Each of these reflections carries Fry's unique blend of wit and seriousness. He can lace a sentence with humor, but always aim it toward truth. Stephen Fry's humanism reminds us that meaning is not found in eternal rewards or punishments, but in the brief span of life we share. He said, "We are the universe made conscious. Life is extraordinary, and it is enough." This is Fry's invitation to live fully, love deeply, laugh generously, and embrace the fleeting miracle of existence. In his words, we find both courage and comfort. Courage to reject gods who fail to comfort. Comfort in the knowledge that life, even without gods, is radiant and worth cherishing. Take a long breath in, hold it for a moment, and slowly let it go. Stephen Fry is known for his brilliance, his wit, his eloquence, but he is also known for his honesty, especially about the most difficult parts of his life. Few public figures have spoken as openly or as movingly about the realities of mental illness. Fry was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, also known as manic depression, in his late 30s. It explained much of the turbulence he had experienced since youth, the soaring heights of energy, creativity, and reckless enthusiasm, followed by the crushing lows of despair, lethargy, and suicidal thoughts. He has described mania as intoxicating. "It's like being in love with the universe," he once said. But the lows were brutal. He has attempted suicide more than once, and he has spoken with painful honesty about those moments. He said, "I used to think the worst thing in life was to end up all alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is ending up with people who make you feel alone." In 1995, Fry made headlines when he abruptly disappeared just days before opening night of a West End play. Overwhelmed by depression, he left the country without telling anyone, sparking concern and speculation. He later admitted, "I had bought a ticket to France, and I walked for miles along the coast, thinking about ending it all. But I didn't. I turned back." This was not a moment of glamour or drama, but of despair. And yet, Fry survived and returned later, determined to speak honestly about what he had endured. Fry transformed his pain into activism. He produced acclaimed documentaries on mental health, such as The Secret Life of the Manic Depressive, in which he interviewed others living with bipolar disorder, from celebrities to ordinary people. The film won an international Emmy and helped destigmatize mental illness in Britain and beyond. He followed with the not-so-secret life of the manic depressive, 10 years on, reflecting on the progress and continuing struggles of those with mental illness. In interviews, he has urged compassion. He said, "It's essential to talk about these things. If one person feels less alone because of it, then it's worth it." Fry has been frank about his unaliving attempts. In 2012, he overdosed on sleeping pills and vodka while filming abroad, only to be discovered in time. He later said, "The fact that I'm still here is testament to friends, to doctors, to the power of kindness, and to luck." This vulnerability has made him not weaker in the eyes of his admirers, but stronger. By refusing to hide, he has helped countless others feel seen. Fry often emphasizes that mental illness is not weakness, but illness, that those suffering deserve compassion, not shame. He has spoken against the language of stigma. He said, "We don't say of someone with a broken leg, 'Oh, you're just weak.' We don't say, 'Pull yourself together.' Yet people say this about depression all the time. It's nonsense." He reminds us that empathy is a human duty, one that does not require divine command. For Fry, mental health advocacy is also tied to his humanist worldview. He does not look for miracles. He looks for medicine, therapy, community, kindness. He once said, "I don't need a God to give me hope. Hope comes from people, from science, from love, from understanding." This intertwining of personal struggle and public philosophy makes Fry's humanism especially powerful. It is not abstract. It is lived, tested in the fire of experience. Here are some quotes for reflection. "It's not all the time, but it's lurking there, waiting. Depression waits until you are most vulnerable, and then it creeps in. I have a belief in kindness. I think that's what matters most. Being kind. I wouldn't wish bipolar disorder on anyone, but without it, I wouldn't be me." Through honesty, Stephen Fry has transformed his personal suffering into a public gift. He has given a voice to those who could not speak. He has turned stigma into conversation. He has shown that even in darkness, humor, compassion, and reason can light the way forward. Take in a deep breath. Hold it softly for a moment and let it flow out. Stephen Fry's story does not end with youthful rebellion or even with the triumph of comedy and writing. His later years have been marked by something deeper, the transformation of a performer into a cultural institution. In 2003, Fry began hosting the BBC panel show QI, short for quite interesting. The show was unlike most quiz programs. The point was not to get the right answers, but to discover surprising facts, to laugh and to learn along the way. Fry, with his towering knowledge and gentle wit, was the perfect host. He presided like a kindly professor, encouraging curiosity, rewarding imagination, and always ready with a pun, a story, or a mischievous correction. Viewers fell in love with his warmth. He was not a stern judge, but a companion, a guide. As one critic put it, QI is what happens when a pub quiz is run by the cleverest, kindest man you know. Fry hosted QI for 13 years until 2016. His years on the show left an indelible mark. A generation learned that facts could be fun and that curiosity itself is worth celebrating. Fry's voice is among his most recognizable gifts. Warm, precise, and full of character. He became beloved as the narrator of the Harry Potter audiobooks in the UK, guiding millions of listeners through J.K. Rowling's magical world. For many, Fry's voice became the sound of childhood imagination. From Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes stories to his own retellings of Greek myth. On the art of narration, Fry once said, "Reading aloud is not just speaking words, it is breathing life into them, lending them rhythm, music, and truth." For insomniacs, travelers, and children alike, his voice has been a balm, gentle, wise, and endlessly expressive. Fry's later career has also included powerful documentaries on topics ranging from language to technology to human rights. In Stephen Fry, The Secret Life of the Manic Depressive, he tackled mental illness. In Stephen Fry in America, he traveled across all 50 states, exploring the diversity of American life. In Out There, he confronted the realities of homophobia and LGBTQ persecution around the world. These programs were more than television. They were activism in disguise, bringing compassion and attention to overlooked issues while never losing Fry's wit and warmth. Stephen Fry has been honored with countless awards, BAFTAs for his performances, honorary doctorates for his writing, and international recognition his advocacy. But Fry has often downplayed such accolades. He insists that curiosity and kindness matter more than trophies. He once remarked, "It's not the honors and the prizes and the fancy outsides of life which ultimately nourish our souls. It's the knowing that we can be of use to others." By the 2010s, Fry had become something rare, a national treasure in Britain, and a global voice for wit, reason, and decency. He was invited to give lectures on literature and philosophy, to speak at universities and humanist gatherings, and to appear on stage with thinkers, scientists, and fellow comedians. He carried himself with humility, never claiming to be more than he was, a man of words, trying to make sense of the world. He once said, "I don't have the answers. I don't think anyone does. But I do believe in questions, and I believe in kindness." Fry's legacy is vast. As a comedian, he gave us laughter through a bit of Fry and Laurie, Blackadder, and Jeeves and Wooster. As a writer, he gave us novels, memoirs, and retellings of myth. As a public voice, he gave us courage to doubt, to question, and to laugh at dogma. As an activist, he gave his voice to those marginalized by religion, by stigma, by prejudice. As a human being, he gave honesty about pain, about joy, about the fragile beauty of life. Stephen Fry reminds us that wit is not just entertainment, it is wisdom in disguise. That humor can expose cruelty, and kindness can heal wounds. That language, when spoken with honesty, can set us free. Take a deep breath in, hold it gently, and let it out slowly. We have wandered together through the story of Stephen Fry, from his restless youth to the bright halls of Cambridge, from the stages of comedy to the pages of literature, from the depths of mental illness to the heights of activism, and finally into the calm wisdom of his later years. Now, as we prepare to drift into sleep, let us let his words, his life, and his humanist philosophy soothe us into rest. Stephen Fry often reminded us that life does not need divine miracles to astonish us. He said, "The fact that we are here at all is so astonishing that we need nothing else to astonish us." As you lie here, breathing softly Let that truth settle in. Your very existence, the beating of your heart, the thoughts drifting through your mind is miraculous in itself. Breathe in the wonder and breathe out the worry. He believed deeply in kindness, not as a religious commandment, but as a human choice. He said, "It's the little touches of kindness and care that make life worth living." Think now of a kindness you received today, however small: a smile, a word, a moment of patience. And think of a kindness you gave, however small, perhaps unnoticed by others, but real. Hold those moments close. Let them warm you as if you were wrapping yourself in a blanket. Fry showed us that laughter is not trivial, but essential. That comedy can pierce pomposity and ease pain. He said, "If you can make someone laugh, you can make them listen. And if you can make them listen, you can make them think." As you prepare for sleep, let your mind recall a moment of laughter, a memory that still makes you smile. Hold it gently, like a small flame in the dark, and let that light carry you into dreams. Stephen Fry embraced doubt, not as weakness, but as strength. The point of science and philosophy, he said, is not that they have the answers, but that they have the questions. So as you rest, you don't need answers. You don't need to solve anything tonight. Let your questions float like clouds, drifting across a quiet sky. They will be there tomorrow. But for now, it is enough to rest beneath them. Fry lived with honesty about pain and joy, despair and delight. His life reminds us that even when shadows fall, we can still find beauty. He said, "We are the universe made conscious. Life is extraordinary, and it is enough." Repeat softly in your mind, "Life is extraordinary. Life is enough." Let us take a final breathing cycle together. Breathe in, fill your lungs gently. Hold. 3, 2, and release slowly, letting your shoulders Stephen Fry's life is a testament to wit, resilience, and the joy of reason. He showed us that without gods, without certainty, without promises of eternity, there can still be laughter, kindness, and love. So now, as your eyes grow heavy, as your breath grows slow, remember Fry's gentle truth. We are human. We are fallible. We are glorious. Rest in that humanity. Rest in that fallibility. Rest in that quiet glory. And sleep now with reason.